The Galaxy Buds 3 Pro have their advantages and their disadvantages, but they also raise the question of whether they are good value for money in today's market. Considering their price, you could find a more affordable option, especially when it comes to the headphones counterpart. Now this review will be pretty long, as I'm going right in depth for the Buds 3 Pro to hopefully answer any questions that you have. And before I get into it, I would really appreciate you if you hit that like button, hype the video or subscribed to get this in front of more people. Upon first picking up the Buds, you will notice a significant design change compared to the Galaxy Buds 2 Pro. They've drawn inspiration from the AirPods. While the case is made out of plastic, it doesn't feel cheap in the hand and does not creak when you squeeze it tightly. The hinge on the back of the case is made of metal, which is great for durability, as it's likely to be the main failure point of the case. The magnets that keep the case closed are reasonably strong, but not strong enough to prevent the case from ejecting the buds when you drop them. The plastic finish, while visually appealing, won't last long under regular use. I've already noticed scuffs and dents from drops. Compared to the matte finish of the Buds 2 Pros, these buds are more prone to getting greasy and slipping from your jeans when sitting down. Therefore, I highly recommend you getting a case for these buds. On the bottom of the case, there is a button. When you open the case, you can press and hold that button to put the buds into pairing mode. If you press this while the case is closed, it will show you the battery percentage of the case via the color-coded LED. One feature that this case offers is the ability to find the buds when they're inside the case, which is something that the other models don't have, even though the option is available in the app. And if I had to put it bluntly, it is far from practical, especially if you lose them in a crowded city or a similar place. The chances of finding them is very low. It is so bad that the buds can be right next to your phone, and your phone will not detect them. So you're essentially playing Russian roulette, hoping that your phone picks up the signal. If it does, you'll get a bar that goes up and down based on the signal's strength. You can also ring the buds while in the case, as the blade lights will flash to help you assist you in finding them if you're in a dark environment. I forgot to mention the biggest caveat. It will tell you the last known location of the buds, and sometimes that can be totally incorrect from where they actually are. This is because it's based on the last time the location was sent, so you could be looking in the totally wrong location for these buds, when in actuality, they're on the side in the kitchen. The second caveat is if someone steals your buds and starts using them, especially if they have a Samsung phone, you lose the ability to track them, and this defeats the purpose in finding them. So I believe it will only be practical if you've lost them in your car or in your house. Otherwise, it's just a matter of luck. In terms of charging, it takes approximately 2 hours to fully charge the case from scratch, which is quite slow. However, this case supports wireless charging. So if you have a wireless charger set up, you can place the buds down, and this can be handy if you're in a rush and you don't have time to charge them. In the worst case scenario, if your buds are dead and you don't have a charger, you can use the reverse wireless charging feature on the back of your phone to charge your earbuds. And 15 minutes on the back of your phone yields 1 hour of playback, but I usually just charge it until 100% while I'm in college. The Buds 3 Pro have a strikingly different design compared to the Buds 2 Pro. Honestly, it's like Marmite. I hate it and I love it, but the more I use it, the more I hate it. First, the Buds 2 Pro have a matte texture, providing better grip in the hands compared to the stick. The stem design draws inspiration from the AirPods, but it's a much worse approach. It's now angular instead of round, and it can be used for pinch gestures, to play, skip music, and adjust the volume by sliding up and down the stem. The Buds 2 Pro had a tap on the edge of ear function to turn the volume up and down, and I feel this was a missed opportunity with the Buds 3 Pro. When the Buds 3 Pros were first released, they were briefly recalled due to a quality issue, and this would cause the silicone ear tip to rip when removed. And out of the 2 pairs that I've had, I've never had this issue, so I'm assuming that it's been solved. And according to Samsung, the correct way to remove the tip is to flip it inside out and pull it away instead of ripping it away. And compared to the Buds 2 Pro, it is definitely easier to take off, but also secure enough that it won't come away on its own. The ear tip is made out of soft silicone that feels comfortable in the ear. On the inside of the tip, there is a hard plastic that clips onto the buds, and this is a nice addition that can provide some structure to the buds, something that was never an issue with the Buds 2 Pro anyways, but it's nice to have. In the hand, the Buds 3 Pro feel less dense than the Buds 2 Pro, which can be nice for forgetting that you're wearing them. Each bud of the Buds 3 Pros weighs in at 5.4 grams, and the case weighs in about 46.5 grams. The Buds 2 Pro have a slightly heavier design at 5.5 grams, with the case being in at 43 grams. being lighter. Taking a closer look at each bud reveals 5 distinctive features. The first is the blade lights, which while visually appealing in low light, are a gimmick that I've encountered issues with. There is only 3 lighting styles and 1 color option available. Additionally, you must remember to remove them from your ears and press and hold both stems to turn them on, which is a nice feature, but it's effort, it kills your battery, and you get no benefit except being a show-off. The top vent helps balance the pressure inside your ear when you insert the buds. This feature effectively eliminates the stuffy feeling that can occur when the buds are in. The side vent located near the stem is used for active noise cancellation. You will find a skin sensor, which detects whether the buds are in or not. At the bottom of the bud, you'll notice a hole. This is a second microphone, positioned towards your mouth and is designed to capture sounds around you for clearer calls. It is also color-coded to indicate left and right. The third microphone is located inside the speaker. This microphone detects your voice for automatic conversation switching and adjusts the sound profile to balance between sound quality and comfort. In my initial impression, these buds were incredibly comfortable. They have a soft feel in the ear, and since my ears are small, I do experience a slight stretching sensation. However, this is acceptable and makes me feel that they are secure in their placement, and compared to the Buds 2 Pro, when they're in, they feel much less prominent in my ear, almost as if they're not there at all. They create the illusion as if you're not wearing them sometimes. For the first month, I was thoroughly satisfied with these buds, and as you get to know them better and better, you notice one thing that keeps cropping up, and that is wind rejection. It is noticeably worse than the Buds 2 Pro, and this is due to its angular design, as sharp edges and wind do not mix well. When you hold the Buds 2 in front of your mouth and gently blow, the sound is barely audible, because the air is evenly distributing around the bud, reducing friction. But do the same with the Buds 3 Pro and you will hear a slight increase in wind resistance. However, this is due to its angular design, as some air will flow up the stem and over the microphone, creating that wind resistance noise. And this means if you're speed walking, you will hear it. If you're cycling, you will hear it. If you're walking, you will hear it. And the wind resistance can impact the sound, tempting you to turn up the volume even more. This is something that the Buds 2 Pro don't have an issue with. So if you are a cyclist, I would definitely recommend you getting the Buds 2 Pro instead, or picking up something else. If I had to describe the sound quality of these earbuds, I would like to say refined over the Buds 2 Pro, as all of the frequencies have been rounded out to give more of a balanced sound profile. But if I had to compare it to the Buds 2 Pro, it is like you can hear the bass drop and then continue on. But with the Buds 3 Pro, you can hear the bass drop and bounce back up, meaning that the bass has more of a bouncy, fluffy feel to it. Vocals are clear and warm, and the instrument separation is also very good, as everything sounds well spaced. However, I feel I noticed this more in quiet surroundings during the calm parts of music, but it's never in a way that is unpleasant, more of like a way you can't distinguish the instruments. However, if the sound doesn't suit your taste, you always have the option to fully customize the EQ to your desired sound, and this can be a great way to move from that flatter feel. Though one thing I do think you should be aware of is inconsistent sound profile. This is pretty serious if it's true. This basically invalidates this entire review, and according to Reddit, many users have reported a significant loss in their lower end sound after updating these earphones, resulting in a tinnier tone, and the sound quality deteriorates when ANC controls are turned on. I've experienced a similar change in the sound profile, and the sound quality deteriorated when ANC was switched off. And usually, when ANC was off, the sound quality would sound a bit wider and sound a bit okay. It wasn't really that bad. But after that update, it was much, much worse, sounding completely tinny and closed. And it was only when I downgraded the buds did I realize that Samsung is changing the sound profile of these earphones from update to update. This is kind of concerning, especially from the reviewer's standpoint, which is me, telling you about these earphones. I could be telling you that these buds have a full bass, high vocals, clear sound, but then when you buy it, let's say a year or two later, and you're like, hold on, I'm not getting this type of quality. Was I lied to? No, you wasn't lied to. Samsung changed the sound profile completely, as that's what they love to do with update to update. Notice that sound quality will take a major nosedive when the latest buds are around the corner. And while you can downgrade, there are 3 things you need to note. First, it will be in the description down below the like button. Second, it will void your warranty. Third, if you flash the wrong firmware to your buds, you will brick them for life. Fourth, ANC is much worse on the older update compared to the newest one. However, I must note that I am not an audio engineer. I have no idea what I'm looking for in sound quality. For me, I'm just thinking if it sounds good, then it sounds good. And if it sounds good to me, it's more likely to sound good to you. So I will leave a well-trusted review in the description down below for you to watch to delve more into the sound quality if that's something you're interested in. The Buds 3 Pro support lossless audio using the Samsung Seamless codec, which can go all the way up to 24-bit at 96 kHz, with the Ultra HD sound quality option enabled. However, there is something that hasn't been widely discussed. When they say lossless, it is not entirely accurate. Bluetooth cannot transmit a completely lossless signal, so then it uses an adaptive method. And that's why you may notice a degradation in audio quality when you're out and about, compared to just sitting down and listening to music with your phone right next to you, as other devices are competing for the same airtime, causing interference. So they reduce the audio quality. At home, this is far less likely to happen because you're alone. There are fewer devices competing, so your phone is closer to your earbuds, and this allows them to provide the best sound quality that they can adaptively offer. Now, while the Buds 3 Pros can technically deliver Ultra HD sound quality that surpasses the Buds 2 Pros base 24-bit at 48 kHz output, I very rarely see a difference in audio quality. It actually does more harm than good most of the time, where it drains your battery much faster. 3, there's now latency, as what I am saying will not sync with the buds, and you're more likely to have cutouts when you're in public. For me, 360 audio is a hit and miss experience when it comes to music. I find it can excessively increase the volume and degrade audio quality. However, this does work best when watching movies, where it enhances the cinema feel and creates more of an immersive experience. With Dolby Atmos, I genuinely believe it ruins the audio, especially if you're listening to music already mastered in Dolby Atmos. I feel it compresses the audio and diminishes the spatial effects. When turned off, it sounds significantly better. In my opinion, the overall sound quality is much better when all of Samsung's features are disabled. This is because most of the time, especially when you're listening to music from Tidal or Amazon Music, the music is already mastered for you. If your earphones are paired with a Samsung phone, you can control them directly through its dedicated application located in the settings. This feature was moved from the wearable app, which I found unnecessary. The sound controls are intuitive and easy to use. In the app, you'll first see the battery percentage of each bud and the case. Below are the sound controls. First will be no ANC and ambient sound, otherwise it being off, and this uses the least amount of battery life. You also have ambient sound, which lets you hear your surroundings, and I'd say this is the best ambient sound I have heard from Samsung. While the Buds 2 Pros sounded okay, it had an artificial, robotic feel to the sound profile. In contrast, the Buds 3 Pros sound natural. Sometimes you can even forget that you're wearing them. This is likely due to a larger vent on the outside of the buds, which is definitely the best part of these earphones. Adaptive is a hybrid of ANC and ambient sound, and what this does is if you're in an environment, let's say a cafe, you will still be able to hear that cafe, but it will tone the volume lower, as it will cancel out the loudest sound, which is the clanking and the talking, but leave in the low end. So you can still hear your environment, but it is much more quieter, allowing you to focus while still being aware of what you're doing. ANC cancels out everything to help you focus on your music. However, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I've noticed that ANC is adapted to the environment that you are in, and let's say you're in a quiet place like your home, ANC will slightly lower its intensity for comfort and battery life. But if you're on a bus, after a few seconds, it gradually pushes out the sound, and then eventually it will adjust to the bus to put your music at the center of your focus. This is definitely an improvement over the Buds 2 Pro, as everything sounds like it has been reduced in sound. But there is one thing we need to talk about, and that is quality control. These are by far the worst when it comes to quality control. Why, you may ask? I've gone through 2 earphones in a month, and I'm not the only one. For example, my first earphone started blasting me with a high frequency sound, and this was very annoying. So I took it for a warranty test, and they denied it. They said there was nothing wrong with the earphones, when in actuality, there was. So then I decided to get another pair, and what do you know? The issue wasn't there with the next pair, and everything was going fine, all hunky-dory, until one earphone decided to start dying faster than the other, and I wasn't the only one experiencing this. Also, another issue you need to consider is the buds will crack, which is crazy for quality control. I've never had that happen. You've also got to consider that people are still having some of the ear tips rip on them, as well as the final major issue, which you are far more likely to encounter, and that is the charging case problem, where people have been complaining that the earphones have not been charging properly because it's not contacting with the terminal properly. And this is quite concerning for earphones I've spent over £100 on. we shouldn't be having these issues. So that is one thing that you do need to keep in mind if you do decide to get these earphones. If you are looking for something that is a bit more stable mentally and physically, then the Buds 2 Pro will be your best bet, as the battery still lasts, it is still in good condition, I don't have any charging issues, and it's just a better built quality product. With ANC enabled, the battery is expected to last approximately 6 hours. However, in practical terms, you should expect around about 5 hours on a single charge, especially if your earphones are second-hand. While individual experiences may vary, I personally have a mixed view when it comes to battery life, as I get an average of 3 hours on a single charge, and from 6 to 3 hours that's only half the battery life, which is pretty bad for buds that I have bought again. But I will admit, 3 hours is fine for me, especially for what I need to get done. If I'm going to college, if I'm on a walk out to town, 3 hours is more than enough to cover what I need to do. But when it comes to battery life, take everything with a grain of salt. Battery life varies from person to person. The Galaxy Buds 3 Pro offer voice detection, but I often turn this off because 1, it works very well in detecting that you're speaking to someone, but 2, it fails to pick up conversational silence. For example, if I'm talking to someone and then we stop and take a moment to read the menu, the earphones will jump straight back into ANC and blast my music back up. Whereas conversations aren't just linear. And when it has done that, it takes a moment to detect I am speaking again, especially if the environment is noisy. Siren detection is useful for safety and has helped me many times when I'm distracted crossing the road and an ambulance come flying down in front of me. But I can imagine this is going to be pretty annoying for someone who lives somewhere where ambulances are dispatched out quite a lot, especially if you're in New York or in the heart of a city. You can use the pinch and hold gesture to switch the ANC sound profile, trigger the assistant, or open an app like Spotify. I usually keep mine on the default setting because I prefer to use my phone for most tasks. The earbud touch controls can be tricky for first-time users, but once you get the hang of it, they can feel pretty intuitive. You can also answer a call by pinching the stem. But since I wear a Galaxy Watch and have my phone on me, I very rarely use this feature, and if I do, I often do forget how to do it. The most frequently used control that I use is media controls. You can pinch to play and pause your music, double pinch to skip, triple pinch to repeat the song, and swipe up and down for volume. And for me, this is quite convenient, even though it can mess with the fit in your ears. Finally, you have voice controls. When I first got these buds, I didn't bother using them, because I thought it was gimmicky. But when you're busy and you don't want to reach for your phone, this can be pretty useful. You can use the commands like play music, stop music, next song, previous song, volume up, volume down, answer call, and reject call. However, you're more likely to use the volume and music commands, as I haven't used the answer phone call commands. I also found that this feature drains your battery life because the microphone is always on, and if you're in a loud environment, you'll find yourself having to shout for the earbuds to recognize your commands, and this can be frustrating. Sometimes I even give up and just use the stem. Another issue is that voice intercoms can trigger voice commands. I remember I was listening to music through my earphones, and the next stop announcement was misinterpreted as the next song, causing me to skip my music multiple times, and it would not stop skipping my music ever. The microphone on the Galaxy Buds 3 Pros are phenomenal, and to give you an idea of how good they are, here is a sound test. So this is a microphone sound test for the Galaxy Buds 3 Pros, and you would be inclined to think that it's coming straight from the phone, but no, it's actually coming from the earbuds itself. And because it's 360 audio, it will try its best to emulate the sound as if you was here in real time with me. For example, this is an air freshener that I have, and this is a book I have. So this is me freshening it up, and depending on where I look to the sound source is where it will switch. Also, let's say I'm flicking through a book that is going everywhere around me. If you're enjoying this video, a subscription to the channel would be amazing for more in-depth videos like this. Now we're going to go outside. So I've got the keys and we're ready to go outside. Okay. One thing you will notice, here we go. Get my shoes on first. And outside we go. This is what 360 audio sounds like when you're outside. I do feel like it doesn't sound as impressive when you're outside. I think the main reason for this is due to the fact that there is so much audio that it has to process. Because for me, it sounds more impressive when you're indoors. and when it's quiet, and when it's clear where the audio is coming from, if you get what I mean. But yeah, have a listen. Don't you love autumn? It's just so nice. And then this is the field in my back garden. It is crazy. Sometimes you can even feel like you're in that location again. And I feel like it does an amazing job in capturing sounds realistically. The Buds 2 Pro can do it, but I feel like the Buds 3 Pro do a better job here. The Galaxy Buds 3 Pro supports seamless connections, allowing you to automatically switch between Samsung devices while playing music. However, this feature doesn't work with other devices. You cannot connect between your Samsung phone and your Mac or Windows computer. That is not a feature Samsung offers, which is crazy. Neck stretch reminders use the accelerometer in your earphones to detect if your head has been down for too long and remind you to stretch and improve your posture. I have this feature enabled, but I do ignore the notification, but it's nice to know if I've been looking down for too long. In labs, you have gaming mode, which reduces latency for gaming. However, if you have Ultra HD audio enabled, this feature will be grayed out. And even with it on, there is still a bit of latency, and I don't really see much different in performance. And if you are looking at these for gaming earphones, then you are looking in the wrong place. In the accessibility section, you have a few options. The first is the left and right audio balance, which can be helpful if you're deaf in one ear. However, do note audio quality does take a hit. Noise control with one earbud can allow you to enable ANC with only one earphone in. And this can be pretty useful if you take one earphone out, put it in the case, but you still want to hear your music on the other side. And ANC can help you focus on one side. Hearing enhancements for the ambient sound are designed for users who intend to use this device as a hearing aid. While it works, the sounds are robotic and less natural compared to using it when the device is off. Additionally, there can be feedback issues, and if you intend to use this device as a hearing aid, it might help, but it's not really a long-term solution, especially with the battery and the sound quality. I feel like you can get more for your money for that case. You also get a new option to boost voices in front of you, which works quite well, and you can also lower the sound environment to enhance the voices even more. But this makes the voice in front of you sound robotic and processed. However, it's still a nice feature, as I've used this when I'm in McDonald's, and I want to focus only on the voices calling out for my order. The app also adapts sounds for those with hearing loss by re-adding the lost frequencies from aging or headphone abuse to round out the audio. Sometimes I use this feature to enhance the bass, and it works pretty well. So it boils down to the final question. Is this worth your money? Personally, yes and no. But I'm leaning more towards a no. With the Buds 2 Pro, you are far less likely to encounter those issues, and they're just, I feel, the more stable product right now, more better built quality product. I feel like you should wait for the Galaxy Buds 4, and I think with the Buds 4, Samsung will address most of the issues with the Galaxy Buds 3 Pros. Anyways, if you enjoyed this review, a subscription to the channel would be amazing, as I've been sat here for nearly 3 hours talking, and this script is 4,813 words. That is double an essay. An average size of an essay is 2,000 words, but this is from my experience, and I want to make sure this is the most in-depth review that you can find on YouTube that covers everything that you possibly need to know and is realistic about what it's like to own a Galaxy Buds 3 Pro in 2025. I hope you have a blessed day, and I wish you well, and I'll see you in the next video.